Hash hash, the truth in the dark during the night of our engagement party. Something terrible happened in the ballroom's bathroom. Anna, my fiancée, was the victim of an assault that changed her life forever. I heard her crying from the other side of the wall, and that sound was etched into my memory like a wound impossible to close. Asterisks, asterisk, this is a work of fiction. It contains intense emotional themes but has been adapted for all audiences. Asterisks, asterisk, after that night, Anna was never the same. Her gaze was lost in a distant silence, her mind trapped in a place from which no one could rescue her. The doctors spoke of profound trauma, of a shock that kept her suspended between reality and confusion. Days passed and hope began to fade. When I announced to her family that I wanted to call off the engagement, the world seemed to stop. Daniel, her brother, couldn't bear it. He looked at me with eyes full of tears and contained rage. "How can you abandon her now?" he shouted in a voice that trembled more from pain than from fury. I didn't answer. There were no words that could mend what had been broken. Anna's mother covered her face with her hands. "My daughter was always kind. She believed in you." "Marcos, how can you give up now?" Her words pierced me like knives. "What happened was a tragedy," I said in a low voice, "but I can't change it." She stepped closer and slapped me hard twice, as if trying to awaken something inside me. "If you have any humanity left," she whispered through tears, "promise me you'll look for the truth." Daniel pushed me against the wall. "Is that what love means to you? Forgetting her and pretending nothing happened?" The air in the room was heavy, dense. We were all on the verge of collapse. "I'm not forgetting her," I replied, "but I don't know how to help her anymore." At that moment, Anna from the bed murmured something barely audible. She turned toward the window and said a few words that chilled the air. We all understood that her mind was still trapped in that night. Her mother rushed to her, embracing her. Daniel looked away, holding back. Tears and I in silence felt more guilty than ever. Mr. Rivas, Anna's father, entered the room. His face reflected weariness and desperation. "Daniel told me about the engagement," he said in a grave voice. "But there's something else, isn't there, Marcos?" I didn't answer. "I was talking to the hotel staff," he continued. "That night someone saw you leaving the men's room just as everything happened. They say another man left in the opposite direction." Silence fell over the room like a sentence. "So you saw him?" Anna's mother whispered, trembling. "Do you know who it was?" I remained motionless. "I didn't see anything," I managed to say. Daniel clenched his fists. "I don't believe you. If you knew who it was and stayed silent, it would mean you're afraid." Anna's father slowly approached. "Maybe it was someone you know, someone powerful. But if you don't tell the truth, you'll be condemning all of us to continue living with this shadow." I lowered my head. The words weighed more than the air. "I can't say anything," I whispered. Daniel stepped back, taking a deep breath. "All right, but if you don't speak, I'll find out myself." Hours later, he came to see me at the hospital. He wasn't yelling anymore. His tone was serene, almost brotherly. "Marcos, ... My sister told me she tried to call you that night. Is that true?" "Yes," I replied. "And did you hear anything?" "Yes, a man's voice. It sounded familiar, but I can't quite remember it." Daniel leaned toward me, his eyes burning. "Would you be able to recognize it if you heard it again?" I nodded slowly. "Maybe if I could recover the call." Daniel swallowed. "Then do it, but don't say anything to anyone until you have it. If that man discovers, you could be in danger." I pretended to hesitate and then nodded. "Okay, my friend can try to recover the recording. It might take a couple of days." "Perfect. Call me as soon as you have news." I watched him leave the room with a hurried step, and as the door closed, my expression changed. There was no recording. It was just a trap. And the way Daniel reacted made me suspect my theory was correct. I just needed one thing to prove it. Daniel left the room in a hurry, and the sound of his footsteps faded down the hospital corridor like a clock marking the start of something bigger. I stayed there, staring at the door, feeling the weight of my own lie. There was no recording, just the echo of my voice and a plan that was beginning to take shape. If my intuition was right, this charade would lead me straight to the culprit. The hospital was in semi-darkness. The light of the setting sun filtered through the blinds, casting golden stripes across the sheets. The air smelled of disinfectant and exhaustion. My body was still bruised, my arms covered in contusions, and my back was burning where Mr. Ravos's chair had hit it. The young nurse entered with silent steps. Her brown hair was pulled back in a braid, and she had honey-colored eyes. That seemed to notice more than she let on. Her badge read Laura Morales. She must have been about 35, with fair skin and soft hands, the kind that care without haste. "Are you feeling better, Mr. Halley?" she asked in a serene voice, but her gaze was searching for something deeper. "A little, replied, trying to sound convincing. She approached to check my four and added in a low voice, I've seen many families come here with rage, but you carry something else. Guilt, perhaps. I didn't know what to say. There was something in her tone that didn't judge, only observed. And at that moment, I understood that her presence would be important, though I didn't yet know why I couldn't sleep that night. Daniel didn't reappear, and the silence felt thicker than ever. I decided to get up and walk down the hall. The hospital in the early morning was a different world. Cold lights, distant. Footsteps, whispers of nurses trying to stay awake. When I reached the large window at the end of the corridor, I saw something that stopped me. Through the glass in the parking lot, Daniel was talking to an older man in a gray suit. They were gesticulating nervously, looking around. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their movements were enough. There was fear, urgency, and secrecy. Laura appeared behind me without a sound. You shouldn't be on your feet for so long, she said softly. Do you know that man? I asked, pointing to the glass. She narrowed her eyes. I've seen him. Before, I think he works at the hotel where Anna's incident happened. A chill ran down my spine. Are you sure? Almost. I worked there years ago when I was a nursing student. I'd recognize that security uniform anywhere. I looked at her, trying to process everything. The man in the gray suit got into a dark car and drove away. Daniel was left alone, leaning against a column with his head in his hands. Laura looked at me, and there was something like a warning in her voice. If you decide to go through with this, be careful. The truth doesn't always heal. Sometimes it hurts more than the wound. When I returned to the room, my heart was pounding. The lie about the recording had already taken effect. It was only a matter of time before the true culprit took the next step, and I would be waiting. The silence of the hospital was dense, as if the walls themselves were keeping secrets. I sat in bed, still aching, thinking about what I had seen in the parking lot. Daniel meeting with a hotel guard. Why? What did they have to hide? The door opened slowly, and Laura came in with a tray. Her presence always seemed to lower the tension in the air. Her eyes were slightly tired, but still shone with that mix of kindness and firmness that made her different. You haven't slept at all, she said softly as she placed the tray on the table. I can't, I replied. Laura sat in the chair, crossed her hands, and added in a low voice, There's something I need to tell you. Marcos, my heart skipped a beat. Last night, while changing shifts, I overheard two nurses talking about the guard Daniel was with outside. One of them recognized him too. His name is Herrera. He was fired shortly after the incident, but they never said why. The name hit me like a hammer blow. Was Herrera present the night of the engagement, I asked. Yes, she replied. And they say he had problems before for covering up situations at the hotel. Nothing officially serious, but everyone avoided him. I felt something align inside my head, like puzzle pieces finally making sense. Thank you, Laura. Truly. She looked down as if she didn't want me to notice the slight blush on her cheeks. I'm not doing it just for you, she said. Anna deserves to know the truth, even if it hurts. That sentence cut through me. Anna, trapped in her own mind, reliving that hell without being able to escape. I couldn't allow everything to be buried. That afternoon, the hospital was filled with the distant sound of footsteps and murmurs. I tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. The tension was gnawing at me. When I finally managed to close my eyes, a metallic noise woke me up. The doorknob moved. Very slowly. Someone was trying to get in. I sat up with difficulty and looked through the gap. A man in a dark jacket was walking away down the corridor with quick, nervous steps. I didn't see his face, but the way he walked, it was unsettlingly familiar. I woke Laura up. Immediately. She reacted quickly with a mix of concern and determination. You are not alone, she said, holding my shoulder. I'll speak to security tomorrow. I won't let anyone hurt you. Her words wrapped around me like a refuge. The dawn arrived with cold lights. Laura entered with a cup of coffee and a serious expression. The cameras captured someone leaving via the service staircase last night. Dark jacket, but the face isn't visible, she explained. It has to be him, I said, or someone who wants to protect him, she added. That sentence pierced my chest. Daniel, before I could answer, Laura sighed and said, We can go see Anna today. They've moved her to a rehabilitation clinic near here. Dr. Eliza Vargas wants to speak with you. The idea filled me with alarm and hope at the same time. The clinic was small and quiet, surrounded by trees. The air smelled of flowers and mild disinfectant. Dr. Eliza greeted us with a warm gesture, although her eyes showed the burden of too many difficult stories. Anna has made small advances, she explained. Fragments of memory, isolated words. She's not ready to relive anything, but sometimes memories come uninvited. She led us to the room. Anna was sitting by the window, holding a paper flower between her fingers. When she saw me, her eyes moved slowly until they found mine. Marcos double quotes, she whispered. I felt my chest split into 1,000 directions. Laura put a hand to her heart. That was spontaneous, said Doctor. Elisa, this is important. Anna looked down. Her lips trembled. He said ... It was a ... secret ... A chill ran through my bones. Who, Anna? The doctor asked softly. She was breathing heavily. A secret ... No one should know ... double quotes. The flower fell from her hands. Laura hurried to pick it up. I had to lean against the wall. That phrase wasn't a delusion, it was a memory. On the table next to the bed was a notebook. Anna used it to draw when she couldn't speak. One of the drawings took my breath away. A man with a shadow over his face, and a golden watch on his wrist. The detail of the watch was exact, colored with intense yellow. Laura froze. That watch ... double quotes, she whispered. Daniel was wearing it the day of the engagement. Dr. Eliza tensed. Traumatic memory works in flashes, she explained. Sometimes it mixes things up, sometimes it reveals details she could never say out loud, but I no longer had any doubts. The watch. The rumor of the bathroom. Daniel's nervousness. The insistence on blaming me. The meeting with Herrera. Everything fit too well. When we stepped into the hallway, Laura was pale. What are you going to do? She asked. Confirm it, I replied. I need proof. Even if it breaks my soul. She took my arm gently. Just, be careful, Marcos. When the truth starts to come out, the guilty become desperate. Her words were not advice. They were a warning. And the worst part, I knew she was right. The cold wind beat against the windows when we returned to the hospital. I carried Anna's drawing folded in my jacket pocket as if the paper were a living witness incapable of silence. I couldn't stop looking at it. That golden watch. That shadow on the face, that trembling line that left no room for doubt. I spent the entire afternoon sitting in the common room, my mind tangled. If I took that drawing to the police without firm proof, they would dismiss it as the delusion of a traumatized woman, but if I did nothing, I would become an accomplice to my own silence. And there were already too many silences in this story. While I was still lost in thought, Laura appeared as always, without a sound, yet filling the space. Her hair was tied back, though some loose strands fell across her forehead. I know you haven't eaten anything, she said, placing a tray in front of me. I'm not hungry. She sat down beside me. She didn't say anything at first. Laura knew how to listen even in silence. After a few seconds, she spoke. Marcos. Sooner or later, you'll have to face him. I'm not looking for revenge, I replied without looking at her. Just justice. Sometimes one leads to the other, she whispered. Her words struck me as an uncomfortable truth. That night I gathered the courage and called Anna's parents, the Rivas. The conversation was short, tense. I asked them to come to the hospital. When they arrived, the atmosphere became so thick it felt like the air could be broken with bare hands. He, a man with broad shoulders and tired eyes. She, with swollen eyes, looked like she had been crying for days. Why have you called us? Mr. Rivas asked, crossing his arms. I took a deep breath. Because I know who was with Anna that night. Mrs. Rivas pressed her lips together so hard they turned white. Who? She asked, barely. A voice. Daniel. She stood up abruptly as if burned. That's a lie, she cried with a suffocated sob. Not my son. He loved her, perhaps in a way. That Anna didn't want, I replied. Mr. Rivas remained motionless, as if a part of him already knew the truth. Do you have proof? He asked, his voice hoarse. I took out the drawing and placed it on the table. Anna did this morning, and that watch. You know it, Mr. Rivas. He took the paper with trembling hands. His breathing became erratic. That watch. ... He swallowed. I gave it to him. His voice broke. Mrs. Rivas collapsed into a chair, covering her face. The door opened. Daniel was there, wearing a dark jacket, deep circles under his eyes. The look of someone who can no longer sustain their own lie. What's going on? He asked, though his eyes already knew the answer. Mr. Rivas held up the drawing with a shaky hand. Son, ... Tell me this isn't true. Daniel lowered his head. I didn't mean to, ... Double quotes, he whispered. His mother let out a scream of pain that tore through the room. What did you do, Daniel? What did you do to your sister? He closed his eyes as if the world was crumbling on top of him. I drank too. M-U-C-H. I wanted to talk to her, ... To argue, ... To clarify what she had said, ... Double quotes, his voice broke. She got scared. She tried to push me away. I I don't remember clearly. It was all confusion. ... I listened with a broken heart. What you did destroyed lives, I said. Daniel fell to his knees, crying, "Do what you have to do, Marcos. I don't want to keep running." His father looked at him as if he didn't recognize the son in front of him. "We'll go to the police tomorrow," Mr. Rivas said in a whisper. Laura approached slowly. "Please, don't make this worse. I have to do the right thing." Daniel looked up at me. "Take care of her. Take care, Mana. You were always better than me." I left the room with Laura. Outside, the air smelled of rain. I felt empty, broken, but lighter. "It did the right thing," Laura whispered, taking my hand. And for the first time in a long I didn't feel alone. The next morning dawned gray, as if the sky carried the shame of everything that had happened. I barely slept. The images from the night before kept replaying in my head. Daniel's confession, his mother's heart-wrenching crying, Mr. Rivas's silence. Laura entered the room, wearing a light blue blouse and her hair down. Her presence always mitigated the weight of the world. "You were brave," she said. "I don't feel that way," I replied. "It hurts because you love that family, and because a part of you also broke last night." Before I could answer, the door opened. It was Mr. Rivas, haggard. His shoulders slumped. "I could hate you," he said bluntly, "but I can't. You uncovered a truth I didn't want to see." I couldn't respond. "Daniel turned himself in this morning," he continued. "The police took him. He said he didn't want to hide anymore." He closed his eyes, in pain. "Anna's calmer today. Dr. Liza says she slept better. Maybe she can start to heal." Laura offered him water. Mr. Rivas accepted it without looking at her. "It wasn't bravery," I said in a low voice. "It was guilt. Sometimes guilt is the only compass we have left," he replied, before leaving. The silence that remained afterward didn't hurt. It only weighed. Laura placed a hand on my shoulder. "You have to let go, Marcos. You can't keep living inside that night anymore." "I don't know how to do that." "Start by forgiving yourself, and then ... little by little. Learn to trust life again." Her words were a mix of comfort and bitter truth. Days later, I attended the preliminary hearing. Daniel entered in handcuffs. There was no more fury left in him, only emptiness. When he saw me, he lowered his head. He pleaded guilty without requesting a lawyer, without excuses. Leaving the courthouse, Laura was waiting for me outside. She was wearing a beige jacket, her hair down, and her eyes full of silent tenderness. "Is it over?" she asked. "Yes, but I don't know if this is an end. Endings don't exist, Marcos. Only new beginnings disguised as goodbyes." We walked together toward the car, and for the first time in months I felt that my steps were my own. That night at the hospital, I wrote a letter to Anna. I told her that the truth had come to light, that her family was still alive, though broken, and that I would remain there, waiting, even if in silence. Before turning off the light, I thought of Laura, of her calm voice, of the way she held my gaze when the world was falling apart. For the first time in a long time, I was certain that I could love again. The rain was gently hitting the roof when I received the call from the commissioner. "Daniel asked to see you before the transfer," he said in a serious voice. "He says he needs to speak with you." I hung up without answering. Laura was at the door, observing me calmly. "Are you going to go?" "I don't know. A part of me needs to hear him." She nodded. "Do what you must. Sometimes peace comes when we face what we are afraid to hear." The police station was cold, quiet. A guard led me to a small room with a metal table. Daniel entered, escorted. He looked older, more tired. "Thank you for coming," he said in a weak voice. I sat down. "Speak." Daniel swallowed. "That night ... I argued with Anna. I said horrible things to her. I went to the bathroom to apologize. She was crying. I tried to talk to her, and it was like everything was erased from my mind. When I reacted ... I was outside in the hallway. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't face my parents. So I let them blame you. It was easier to hate you than to face myself." His handcuffed hands were trembling. "I don't deserve forgiveness ... but I needed to tell you." I looked at him for a long time. "I can't forgive you," I said, "but I don't want to keep hating you either. There's no point in living in that abyss." Daniel looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because if I hate you, I'm still trapped in that night, and I don't want to live there anymore." The guard announced that time was up. Daniel stood up. "Take care of my sister ... double quotes," he whispered. "She loved you more than you know." I watched him walk down the hallway until he disappeared, and although it hurt, I felt relief. Laura was waiting for me outside, leaning against her car. The wind moved her loose hair. When she saw me, she smiled. "It's over." "Yes," I replied. "And now we have to move on." She walked over and hugged me. An honest hug. One of those that says, "You can rest now." That night I slept without nightmares for the first time in years. Several months have passed since that last conversation with Daniel. Time initially seemed frozen, but little by little something began to heal. Anna was transferred to a smaller, brighter rehabilitation center. I visited her one April afternoon. Laura was arranging fresh flowers in a vase. "Look who came," she said, smiling. Anna looked up, and for the first time in a long time, she recognized me. "Marcos, double quotes," she whispered with a shaky smile. I walked over, took her fragile hand, and took a deep breath. We spent the afternoon in silence. A soft calm filled the room. Laura, sitting by the window, watched with tenderness. As I was leaving, she walked me to the car. "And you?" she asked. "How are you? Learning. What? To not be afraid of peace?" She smiled. Her laugh was warm, almost musical. In time, Anna started writing small letters. In one of them she wrote, "I am learning to sleep without fear. Thank you for not giving up." I cried when I read it, not from sadness, from relief. Weeks passed. Laura and I started seeing each other outside the hospital. First, coffee, then walks, comfortable silences, glances that spoke more than words. One Sunday afternoon, while watering some plants on my balcony, Laura said, "Sometimes life doesn't give you back what you lost, but it offers you something different if you know how to open your hands." I looked at her, and I understood. A year later, the city felt different, kinder. I went to visit Anna. She greeted me with a peaceful smile. "Thank you for not abandoning me," she wrote on a sheet of paper. "I know you learned to live too." I hugged her carefully. The past still hurt, but it no longer dominated us. On the way to the car, I found Laura waiting for me, wearing a beige dress. Her hair moved by the wind. She smiled at me. "Ready?" "Ready," I replied. She took my hand. Her fingers were warm, secure. "Sometimes necessary lies open up true paths," she whispered. "And sometimes," I said, smiling, "love arrives when you stop running." We walked together as the sun set over the city, staining the buildings with gold. Anna was alive. The Rivas were starting to rebuild. Daniel was seeking redemption from a distance, and I finally had found a new beginning.